Hi everyone. So in this session, I'll be talking about one of the built-in Python data types, that is list. So let's start with the basic definition of list. So list is basically a sequence type data type which is used to store multiple values in the same variable. Okay. So for example, say we define a list, my list, where it has the values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see a list has been created. How to check the type of the list? So in my previous discussions, we got to know about a function that is type. So we write type, and within the brackets, write our variable name. And here you can see the type is list. Now, there are few characteristics of list that one should know before going into details. That uh, the list is ordered. By saying that it is ordered, what I am trying to say is that, say for example, here as you see, I have created a list with numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So no matter how many times I print my list, the position of these numbers would remain same. There won't be a case wherein 3 will be at index 0 or 2 would be at the last index. That is never going to happen. The index, the location defined at the first place will always remain the same. So the list is ordered. Also, the list is changeable. That is, we can basically change the values of a list at different locations. Say, for example, I have to change the location of the value at location 0. Okay. So what I'll do is that I'll say my list square bracket 0 and say put 0. Okay. Now if I try to print the list, you can see the one has been replaced with 0, and this is the new list that we have created. So what we can conclude from this is that the list is changeable. The third is uh, list could have duplicate values. So for example, now again, say for example, I change the value of the third index and change it to 0 and again try to print it. As you can see, we can have duplicate values. We have 0 coming up twice in the list. That means that my list, or any list for that matter, can hold duplicate values. Okay. So these are basic characteristics of list. Now there are few functions, very important ones, that we have to really understand in order to work around with list. So one of the most important function is len. So basically, len is a function which actually helps us to get the length of the list. So in our case, if we write len and the list name, as you can see, the length comes up as 6. And if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exactly that it matches. Say we have a my list 2 or 1, and say 1, 2, 3, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. Yeah. And if I subject it to the length function, the value that we see is 10. So that means length is a very inbuilt list function which helps us to retrieve the length of the list. Okay. Then, so I have already shown you, but I'll just go in detail. So as you can see, in order to access any value in the list, we have to put the index of that particular value in a square bracket following the list variable name. So by this, what I mean to say is, say for example, I have to print the value 2, which is at index 1. By the way, the index in list always starts with 0. So what I mean by saying that is that at 1 is at index 0, and 2 is at 1, 3 is at 2, and so on and so forth. Okay. So say for example, I have to access 2. So what I'll do is that my list 1 square bracket 1. So I get the value 2, which is at the location 1. Okay. And similarly, we can say if you have to find the last value, okay, say it is at 8. Sorry, my list getting out of range of my list 1, and this is 8. So what would be the value at index 9? The index value at 9 would be 9. Yeah. So this is how we can basically retrieve values uh, in the list. Also, say for example, we want values from 1 up till 4. Okay. So how we'll do it? One way is that we do something like my list 1, um, 1, and my list 1, 2. So this is how we are basically getting individual values. But I want a way by which I can extract this whole all the values at one go. Okay. So how I'll do it? I'll do it my list 0 colon and an index that is coming after the value that we want to retrieve. So for example, in here we have to retrieve the value 4, okay, till 4. So how we'll do is we'll put it 0 colon 4. Sorry, I'm always getting confused with this. So 0 colon 4. Okay, so here you go. So what we see on the screen is 1, 2, 3, 4. So always remember, in order to extract values or a group of value, we always put in the index of the following value as the one after the colon. Okay, as the one after the colon. I hope that is clear, right? So now, just for another example, I'll say I have to print something from 4 till 8. Okay, so this is at index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 8 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so my list 1 would be 3, 9, because as I said, the index of the last value should always be greater than 1 for the values that we want to retrieve on the screen. Okay, so here you go. So you can see 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8. So that is how we can basically do the slicing of the list. Now, there is one special capability of lists, that if we can also pass in negative values in the square brackets. Okay. So what this would retrieve is the last value. So if we give all the positive numbers, it would move in from left to right. Whereas if we provide them the negative numbers, it will always start from the end. So if I do my list 1 minus 1, so you see 9 is getting printed. Okay. So that means now the traversal is from the backward end. Okay. So if I say my list 1 minus 2, so you can see it is coming as 8 here. Okay. Slicing could also be possible from the end. So if I do say minus 4 comma minus 1, so what you will get to see is the last four values of the list would get displayed. What happened? This indices would be integer slices. Just a second. Oh, the syntax error. So basically there should be a colon. So as you can see, my list 1, sorry, don't, I'll just clear this one so that there is no confusion. Okay. Or else, yeah. So my list 1, I'll just scroll this out. Yeah, my list 1 minus 4 minus 1 You see the last three values have been displayed. So what we got from here, so I'll just show you the my list one all over again. Okay, so here you can see -1 is the as I explained in my previous sessions also, that the second number whatever you put in is always exclusive. So always if we run this particular slicing, it would be the minus fourth value, that is 6, minus third value, that is 7, and the minus second value, that is 8, would be displayed. And say for example I have to display the last four digits. Okay, last four values in the list. I'll do something like this: 4 minus 4 colon, and that's it. I don't have to provide any value after the colon. This way we will print the last four values. Okay, similarly in case I want to print the first five values in the list, how I'll do it: I'll open the square bracket, no need to put 0. Okay, I'll just put a colon and say the I have to get the first four values. Okay, so I'll do colon 5. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I have to get the first five values. Okay, so this is how it would print. So it will all start from 0. This is the zeroth index: 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, got it. Now, say for example, we have a scenario wherein I have to print 1, 3, 5, 6, 8. So every alternate values from 0. So how I'll do it? I'll do it something like this: my list 1. It is starting from 0, so no need to put 0 colon. Okay. Again, I have to reach it till very end, so no need to put any value after this colon also. So let's try what will happen if I just run it like this. So it will print the list as it is. Okay. Now I have to print the alternate values in the list. Okay. So how I'll do it: leave the first space without any value, put the colon, leave the second space also without any value, put the colon again, and say 2. Okay, this particular value after the second colon is the step value. So basically how many steps the compiler has to how many steps the compiler has to skip in a list is how we put it here. Okay, so if we do it, so you can see every alternate value is being printed, and from this you can conclude that by default the value is always 1 here. Okay, so as you can see, the list that has been given as the output is all the alternate values starting from 1. So you can see 1, 3, 5, 6, 8. Okay, so these is the step variable that we put in in our list slicing. Okay, so uh, that is how we basically could access different values in a list. Now looking at okay, range of indexes also I've seen. So for example, now I have a scenario wherein I have to uh, say I have to check that whether a particular value is present in a list or not. And if you are thorough with all my previous session, it is very easy for you to conclude that in this scenario we will use the in operator. Okay, so say 1 in my, so I first print my list 1. This is my list. I will check if 1 is in my list 1 or not. As you can see, 1 is there. This should ideally result out as true, and that is exactly what we are getting. Okay, also say we want to find a group of values if that is present in the list or not. So what I'll do is 1, 2, 3 in my list 1. Okay, so this is a very strange situation. You would say, oh, 1, 2, 3 is present, then why I'm not able to see it in the my list 1? The reason being, this particular value 1, 2, 3, the compiler is trying to find this identity as a whole in the list. Okay, by what I'm trying to say is that suppose I have a list, say for example, I have a my list 2, and I have a list within a list like 1, 2, 3, then 2, then 3. Okay. And if I try to run the in, you will see this will result in true. So what it is trying to do is that it is considering this whole three values as a single identity and trying to find this value in the list. Okay. I hope that is clear. Now, yeah. So basically, the in function. Uh, Now we have seen how we can access different values, how we can check if a particular value is within the group or not, within the list or not. Now, say for example, I have to change the value at some position. Like I have to my list one. I have to change the value at, say for example, the first index. Okay. So what I'll do is that I will do my list one equal to some say 234. Okay. Now if I display the values, you will see the value is getting is being replaced. Okay. So this is one way how we can replace values. Another way of doing things is there's an insert function. Okay. So for example, now I have to replace 234 here with say 2 now. Okay. So how we will use the list function? We'll do my list dot one insert the position at which we have to replace the value, that is 1, and the value itself. Okay. Now if we'll check the list, you will see, sorry, have I done anything wrong? Oh, this should be 2. I'm really sorry. Okay. So I have to replace 234, right? The index is at 2. So 2 I would replace with, say now I have to replace it with say 2. Okay. So now if I print this, you can see 234 has been replaced by 2. So basically the whole funda is that we have to put in the index first. Oh, sorry, I had to show you using, my bad, sorry. Okay, I'll just first rectify this. Okay, so my list 0 should be 1. My list 1 should be 2. Yeah, or else rather my list. Acha, I'll show you by this way one more way of how to do things. So say for example, I have to replace the first three values as 0, 1, 2 rather than 1, 2, 2. So how I'll do it? I'll do it here 0, or I'll just leave it as it is. Put the second index as 3. Okay, because I have to replace the first three values, and I'll put uh, 0, 1, and 2. Okay, if I'll try to, again I'm doing a mistake, this should be my list 1. Okay, now if I print my list 1, you see it is now been rectified as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now say for example at the index 1, that is 2, I have to always remember that index always starts with 0. Okay, so say at index 2, I want to use the insert function, put the index 2 and replace it with 2, 3, 4. Display my list 1, you see at the index 2 the value 2 has been replaced with 2, 3, 4. Okay, uh, yeah, so that is another way we can replace values at a certain index. The first one is simply putting the square bracket and putting the value against it, and the second one is to use a dot insert function. Okay, we can also say we want to add new values at the end of a list. So my list 1 is now value, I'll just change it like before. Okay, okay, and change it. Let it be. There has been something. No problem. So now, say for example, I have to add a new value at the end of the list. Okay. So how I'll do it? My list one dot. There's a function append, and say I have to add value 10. Okay. So I'll put 10. Now, if I will print this, you see an extra value 10 has been added at the end. Okay. That is how we append values. Now, say for example, I have an my list 2. Okay, here, and I have to append this my list 2 in my list 1. How will we do it? We'll do it something like this: my list 1 dot extend my list 2. Okay, and now if I'll print this, you see, after 10, that my list 2 has been just concatenated. Okay, so this is how we look after extending, or rather concatenating a list to an already existing list. Okay, now say I want to remove one the last value from the list, that is 3 in our case. So what I'll do is that my list one dot pop is a function which basically would fetch out the list, fetch out the value from the list. Okay, my list one, if I'll show you, and now you can see the three value 3 has been removed from the end. Okay, now question comes up, if say for example I have to remove the value from the 0th index. Okay, then how will I do it? Okay, now if I try this, you see the value from the 0th index has been removed. So if we just give the pop function without any value, it will just remove the last value from the list. Whereas if suppose we are targeting a particular index, we can just put the index number here, and that is how we remove the list from the value from the list. Okay, now for example I have, say, a list 2, right? Yeah, now I have to basically clear this list. Okay, I don't want to see, I want to create, I want to make this my list 2 as empty list. Okay, so how will I do it? I'll use a clear function. Okay, now if I print my list 2, you see a blank list has been created, or an empty list has been created. Got it? Perfect. Perfect. Now, say these are the basic functions that we have in list. So we saw how we can append values, how we can pop values, how we can clear values, how to basically do the slicing and all those stuff. Now, say for example, we have to sort the values in our list. So, for example, I have a new list 4. Okay, and say 5, 1, 8, 9, 2, 5, 3, 7. Yeah, that's it. So, uh, so this is the my list for which I have to sort. So this looks obviously not that sorted. So what I'll do is use a function that is sort here. Okay. What this does is it will basically sort the list. So as you can see, the list has been sorted. Okay, in ascending order. Now, someone would say that let's sort it in a descending order. Okay, that is the requirement. So, how will we do it? We'll use a sort function. There is a attribute which we have to set as true. Okay, so see the values have been sorted in descending order. Okay, so uh, that is one more function. Also, there are a lot of different attributes within sort. So for example, I have a new list, say my list 5, and this holds say string values. Okay, say Aditya, Aditya, uh, Kuwati, Kuwati, Citra, Aina. Okay, perfect. So I will just print it. You'll see the values are in this order. Now, say for example, I have to sort this value. What will happen if I run a sort function against this list? As you will see, the values have been sorted in a certain way. Now the question would arise that how we are able to sort it in this manner. Okay, definitely at in the character perspective, there is no way how we can compare a with a capital A with a small a. But at the background or in the behind, what is actually happening is that the compiler is comparing the values based upon the ASCII values. Okay, and through that they are able to identify that a capital A is always greater than the small a. Capital H is always greater than all the small letters. Okay, in order to avoid this, we have a special scenario or a special attribute we can use within the sort function. Okay, now let's say I want to sort it uh, irrespective of the case of the string. Okay, so how will we do it? Key str, say for example lower, lower. Okay, let's say lower. Right? Now if I in this, you will see all the A's are being are at the first two places. Then, as per the alphabetical order, then H appears, then Q appears, then Z appears. Here, we are not at all looking at the cases of the string. So, basically, what we are doing at this point of time is that we are converting all the values in the lower case and then sorting it uh, using the sort function. So, this is how we can use this attribute. Okay. Also, say for example, we have to copy a list to a different list. Okay, so okay, first let me show you one very interesting thing. So say for example, I delete my list too. By the way, this is how we could delete the list also. Okay, so now if I'll try to check, you won't find any list by this name. Okay, so del space list name. So now say my list 2 is equal to my list 1. Okay, what I'm trying to do is that I am basically put I'm what I'm trying to do is that I'm putting all the values or the my list value into a new variable that is my list 2. Okay, now if I print my list 2, this is what we are exactly getting. Okay, same as my list 1. Now say for example I change say one value from the my list 1. Okay, say for example I change it to 555. Okay, and I print this my list 1. You see the value has been changed. What will happen to the my list 2 here? Will this change or not? Let's see. As you can see, though we have not directly done anything to my list 2, but it has changed. It has also changed. It can also see a changed value in the sequence. The reason why this is happening is that we are not copying a new version, or not copying my list 1 into a new list. What we are doing is that the list exists and now there is two different variables pointing to that list. Okay, I hope that is clear. So say for example we have a list and we have my list 1 and my list 2 pointing to the same list. So what we if we change that particular list by using any of the variables, say my list 1 or my list 2, the actual list changes at the core. Okay, but what if I want a list to be copied to a new list altogether? So what I'm trying to say is this is my list 1. Okay, now I delete my list 2, and then I what I do is my list 2, my list 1, and use a function copy. Okay. Now if I'll print my list 2, you get the same list as my list 1. But now if I change something in my list 1, okay, and I print my list 1, you see the value has been changed to 899. But if you print my list 2 now, the value hasn't changed. It has remained as 555. So that means we have copied the list altogether. Instead of pointing to the same list using two variables, now we have created two different lists, and each variable, that is my list 1 and my list 2, is pointing to their respective lists. Okay, so I hope this is clear. And there are a lot of other things in list, so we probably won't be able to complete it in one session. Then there is list comprehension, then how we can run loop against a list, and all the stuff which I'll be covering in the next session. Okay, so thank you.